Thank you for joining me on this overview highlighting the history of Esko. Over 100 years of history leading up to what Esko is today, a global supplier of integrated solutions for the packaging, labels, sign and display, commercial print, and publishing industries. But how do we get here? To answer that, I'll guide you through over 100 years of history. Different paths starting in Scandinavia, Belgium, the UK, and other places. Meandering through time, merging, becoming stronger, and finally today becoming part of Danaher, a Fortune 500 company with nearly 66,000 employees worldwide and close to $20 billion sales revenue in 2014. Let's turn back the clock to 1918, where our story begins with a company called Purup. Not long after that, another company, Barco, was founded in 1934 in a small Belgian village, focusing on importing radio transistors from the United States and combining this with Belgian ingenuity. They started producing radios, hence the name Barco, Belgian American Radio Company. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a closer look. Our story begins with Ole Kirk Christensen, born April 7, 1891. He was the founder of the Danish construction toy company, the Lego Group. He was the 10th son of an impoverished family in Jutland, western Denmark. He was trained as a carpenter and started making wooden toys in 1932 to make a living after having lost his job during the Depression. Soon after, Christensen's wife died, leaving him to raise his 4 sons. Christensen was inspired to construct a small wooden duck toy for his children. He soon found that his sons loved the new toy and decided to put the ducks into production. In 1947, he moved to using plastic, which were originally small plastic bears and rattles. By 1949, he had produced over 200 plastic and wooden toys. Ole Kirk Christensen came up with the name Lego from the Danish word leg godt, meaning play well. After the company grew to become the Lego Group, on March 11th of 1958, Christensen died from a heart attack when he was 66 years old, and his son, Gottfried Kirk Christensen, promptly took over the company. As the company grew and made some smart business decisions, some acquisitions were looming in the distance. So, what was happening in the graphic industry? Well, in 1980, the Ethernet specifications are published for the first time. 1981, IBM PC legitimizes personal computers in the business market. In this picture, we can see a young Bill Gates on the right. In 1982, a company by the name of Adobe is founded, and Sony releases its first Trinitron monitor. Sun is incorporated. 1983, a big year for the graphic industry when Apple introduces the Lisa, the first computer using a graphical interface and mouse. Following the Second World War, plastic became available in Denmark, and Lego purchased a plastic injection molding machine in 1947. Several Danish companies, such as the Purup Prepress Company, founded in 1918, and the Eskofat Company, founded in 1941, specializing in copy machines, were eventually acquired by the Lego Group. In 1996, Purup and Escofot merged into Purup Escofot, later to be acquired by Barco-Graphics. So, what was going on in the graphic industry? Well, 1984 was a big year for Apple when they launched the Macintosh. Adobe released PostScript and Linotype introduced the Linotronic 300. A company by the name of Aldus creates Aldus PageMaker, a desktop publishing program. Combined with the Apple LaserWriter, you could now print and design. 1986, Ventura Publisher appears on the PC, and Apple ships the first Macintosh Plus. Adobe releases Illustrator version 1. Quark Express releases version 1, and Linotype starts making PostScript. In the meantime, in Belgium, a company by the name of Barco was founded in 1934 in the town of Poperingen, a Flemish-speaking region of Belgium. The founder, Lucien de Peut, initial's business was to assemble radio parts from imported parts from the United States, hence the name of the company, the Belgium American Radio Company, or Barco. The company's radios were highly popular in post-war Belgium, and Barco's rising sales enabled it to make investments towards entering another highly promising industry, that of the television. By the 1960s, Barco's television had become a mainstay in many Belgian living rooms. Part of the company's success was based on its willingness to incorporate compatibility with the variety of European broadcasting standards then being developed, and especially the SECAM standard adopted by neighboring France and the PAL standard adopted in various implementations by much of the rest of Europe. In this way, the company's customers were able to tune into broadcasts from the Netherlands, Luxembourg, France, and Germany, as well as from Belgium itself. Barco-Graphics was the graphics division of the Belgian Barco Group. It was the result of the 1989 merger of Digitized Information Systems Corporation, DISC, Aesthedes, and Barco's own creative group. DISC, founded in 1975, would eventually merge with Barco Creative Systems and Aesthedes, together forming Barco-Graphics in the year 1989. Barco Vision, now Barco, located in Kortrijk, Belgium, would eventually move on to become a company designing and developing network visualization products for the entertainment, enterprise, and healthcare markets. In the meanwhile, in the graphic industry, Next starts selling the Nextcube, a fallout from Steve Jobs. Aldus releases Freehand version 1. 1989 is characterized by CorelDRAW. Helios Eatershare is released in the market. 1990, we see the advent of the Mac 2 FX, setting new speed records, and Microsoft introducing Windows 3.0. Illustrator version 3 ships. Apple and Microsoft team up to launch TrueType, and Adobe releases PostScript Level 2. Photoshop 1 adds support for CMYK. In the meanwhile, Esko-Graphics had grown into a market leader for packaging solutions. In the year 1996, Basel, Schale, and Gerber were acquired, and 2 years later, Contex and Ardios were acquired, laying the foundation for future acquisitions and holistic solutions for the packaging industry. The year is 1992. PDF version 1 wins the Best of Comdex award, Apple ships the Quadra 950, and Artwork Systems is founded. 1993, digital presses like the Indigo ePrint 100 and the Zycon DCP-1 storm the market. Windows NT is ready to take on Unix, and ICC is founded. A year later, Adobe Systems and Aldus merge, and Creo introduces its plate setter. Photoshop version 3 adds support for layers. The following year, Microsoft introduces Windows 95. Apple allows Mac clones, connectivity standards such as FireWire and USB appear, and dye sublimation printers are popular for page proofing. The year is 1976. Peter Kumps, 16, used to drive on his bicycle to his father's friend's office, where he would use the punch card machine to code the computer program he had developed. The next day, he would give these cards to his friend, who would give it to his father, who happened to be the IT director of General Motors. 2 weeks later, he would get the runout back, where he would discover some syntax errors, starting the process all over again. Peter studied civil engineering in Ghent, being the first-year student to request access to the university's mainframe computer. He started his career as a software programmer at Disk, at that time a project-oriented software company of mini-computers of about 30 people. A couple of years later, when Disk was acquired by Esko-Graphics and merged into the organization, Peter was asked to lead the complete US organization. By the time Peter's temporary assignment in the US ended successfully, he returned to Belgium with no clear job waiting for him. He was proposed a staff job, but it was clear that Esko-Graphics could not offer him what he was looking for. At the same time, Guido van der Schuren, a colleague of Peter in the management team of Disk, had joined the company in '82. He had a background as a successful salesperson with Disk. Guido was observing the dramatic changes in the publishing industry and was convinced that the desktop publishing revolution was going to happen. Esko-Graphics needed to jump on this bandwagon. However, Esko-Graphics management did not believe in this. So finally, Peter and Bart Deneau, from their side, had come to a conclusion that they should found their own company. They started up a company in 1992 and called it Artwork Systems. The first presentable product was available in November of that year, and the first shipment occurred in March of '93. Their first product was called ArtPro. designed to provide pre-press functionality for packaging and label files on the Macintosh. Of course, Peter followed the artwork system story, and he had also fallen in love with Next, the computer developed by Steve Jobs. It was a Unix-based system, much more stable than the Mac OS and the DOS operating system. Peter was impressed with the Next computer and came up with the idea that last-minute editing in the desktop world should be possible. So he studied the PostScript book, and by February of 1992, he concluded that he could develop a product to allow some editing of PostScript files within a reasonable time frame. But he needed to invest in a stronger computer. It was time to call Ignaz. Around that time frame, Adobe and Microsoft announced OpenType and Quark version 3.3 ships. Barco acquires Gerber. A year later, the year 1997, and Focus starts shipping Pitstop, and Escofot dominates the market of copy dot scanners. Macintosh releases version OS 8. In 1998, the iMac becomes an instant classic, and PostScript Level 3 is announced. Barco acquires Ardios and Context, and ACFA announces the first PDF-based workflow. The year later, Adobe launches Acrobat 4, and Adobe InDesign sees the light of day. Philip Escofot acquires ScanView. Calling Ignaz de Bach was a very good decision, because at that time the company was virtually bankrupt. He agreed to work for the company and to set a new decent management and financial system in place. In the year 1997, it dawned on Peter that PDF was going to be the next big thing in the graphic art file format, so why not develop a PDF editor? Later, this would become PDF technology. By 1996, the company had sold its 1,000th license of ArtPro with a 50% profit margin. The growth of InFocus hadn't passed unnoticed, so it was obvious that by the year 2000, the companies eventually merged. Artwork Systems acquired InFocus. PCC was acquired 2 years prior, and Dimensional Impressions was acquired in 2001. Drupa 2000, a trade show held in Düsseldorf every 4 years, is the mother of all trade shows in the printing and graphic art industry. The year 2000 was an ideal platform for InFocus, and the show was a wild success. So it was no surprise that finally both companies merged. PDF was becoming the de facto standard in the graphic industry. In the meantime, Barco Graphics and Purup, merging in September of 2001, was acquired by a Danish investment company by the name of Axel in October of 2005. StoneCube, who would lie the foundation for visualizer products, was acquired in 2007. Esko announced it was joining forces with Artwork Systems. Reflecting the merger, Esko changed its name to Esko Artwork. In January of 2011, 100% of Esko Artwork shares were transferred to Danaher, and in January of 2012, the name changed back to Esko. Danaher named after Danaher Creek in Montana, where the Rails brothers Stephen and Mitchell went fishing, founded in 1969, has now become a Fortune 500 company. Esko, part of Danaher's product identification platform, has a leading market position, great products, and a strong team ready to drive further growth. Welcome to Esko.